This chart represents the success of a specific misinformation campaign. In a Washington Post poll 2 years after the September 11th attacks, 82% of Americans believed Saddam Hussein provided direct assistance to Osama bin Laden. In that same poll, 69% believed the Iraqi dictator was personally involved. There was no truth to either of these ideas. At the time, the United States intelligence community had already concluded that Iraq had absolutely no connection to al-Qaeda or the hijackings. Despite having zero evidence, the United States government managed to invade a sovereign nation, selling a war to the public under the pretense of avenging the victims of 9/11. To see how this narrative was constructed, we can look at the personal notes kept by Bruce Riedel. As the senior director for the Near East on the National Security Council in 2001, Riedel's pocket diary provides a day-by-day record of the atmosphere inside the White House. The diary provides a 16-day window into how the administrative focus moved toward Baghdad before the investigation into the hijackers had even begun. Riedel's diary begins on September 12th. Inside the White House, President George W. Bush was already displaying a fixation on the Iraqi dictator, rather than the actual perpetrators of the attack. By September 14th, Bush had his first phone call with British Prime Minister Tony Blair. Right away, Bush stated he was planning to hit Iraq soon. Blair was audibly taken aback. He immediately pushed back, pressing the president to provide any actual evidence linking Iraq to the 9/11 attacks. There was none. British intelligence agencies had already analyzed the networks and knew the connection did not exist. Exactly 3 days after the worst terrorist attack in U.S. history, the administration was already bypassing Allied intelligence to find a justification to strike Saddam Hussein. The resistance from regional allies was equally direct. On September 18th, Bush sat down on the White House Truman balcony with the Saudi ambassador, Prince Bandar bin Sultan. According to Riedel's notes, the president aggressively peppered Bandar with questions, demanding evidence of Iraqi involvement in a way that exposed his own biases. The Saudis were completely perplexed. They told Bush that their intelligence showed no collaboration. Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein were historical antagonists, making a partnership between them entirely illogical. Bandar offered a blunt warning. Attacking Iraq would eliminate a regional buffer, ultimately benefiting Iran and triggering severe, cascading instability across the Middle East. 10 days later, on September 28th, Jordan's King Abdallah visited the president. He urged Bush to focus on Israeli-Palestinian peace talks, arguing that the Palestinian conflict was the true ideological fuel empowering al-Qaeda. Bush ignored the advice. His attention remained locked on an invasion of Iraq. In a span of just 16 days, a pattern was established. The White House systematically discarded explicit intelligence and warnings from their closest partners to protect a predetermined narrative. Lacking actual intelligence, the administration weaponized the public's raw emotional trauma and anguish over 9/11 to manufacture support for the war. The Saudi intelligence warning proved entirely prophetic. The invasion fractured the region, and Iran's influence surged into the resulting vacuum. This internal timeline reveals a top-down campaign to misinform the domestic public, ensuring the Iraq invasion proceeded despite the intelligence community's findings. The cost of that campaign remains staggering. 2 decades later, the United States is still entangled in the geopolitical fallout of that deception. The history of those 16 days serves as a warning. When an uninformed public is susceptible to trading facts for fear, they become vulnerable to being led into tragedy by those in power.